The night was cold in Edinburgh, the kind that cut through wool coats and memories alike. Sam Heughan sat alone by the window of his apartment, the flicker of the fireplace barely touching the edges of his thoughts. The world outside still whispered his name, Outlander's Highlander, the man with the eternal charm, but inside, he felt more like a ghost. Caitriona Balfe's laughter still echoed somewhere in the back of his mind. It wasn't a recent sound, it belonged to the days when both of them were nothing but two souls trying to make sense of fame and friendship. On screen, they were perfect. Off screen, they were almost something, until life and timing tore the possibility apart. They had promised to stay friends, but silence had crept in where warmth once lived. Texts became formal, then rare, then non-existent. Sam had told himself it was fine, that they had outgrown each other. But every time her name appeared in an interview headline, every time fans tagged him in photos of Claire and Jamie, his chest tightened in quiet rebellion. Tonight, that silence was interrupted by a single message lighting up his phone. Unknown number. I hope you're still not hiding behind whiskey and ghosts. Dinner in London next week. D. He didn't need to ask who D was. Dakota Johnson had always signed her messages that way, short, teasing, confident. She was chaos and calm stitched together, and ever since they'd met at a film gala months ago, she had been the opposite of everything he thought he needed, yet exactly what he couldn't resist. He took a slow sip of his whiskey and typed back, "Only if you promise not to ask about my ghosts." A few seconds later, the reply came, "Only if you promise not to compare me to her." His thumb froze above the screen. She knew. Everyone knew. The world didn't let go of Sam and Caitriona, even if he had to. The restaurant in Soho was dimly lit, the kind of place where privacy came with expensive wine and velvet booths. Dakota was already there when Sam arrived, hair tucked behind one ear, a glass of red wine in her hand, and that half smile that always looked like she knew something you didn't. "Late again, Highlander," she said softly as he sat down. "Traffic," he replied, loosening his scarf. "Or nerves," she teased. He chuckled, but she wasn't entirely wrong. Something about Dakota unsettled him, not in a bad way, but in the way a storm unsettles the sea before it calms it. They talked about film, travel, and the ridiculousness of Hollywood gossip. When she mentioned his name being linked to his former co-star, Sam shifted uncomfortably. "You mean Caitriona," he said quietly. Dakota raised an eyebrow. "Do you always say her name like it's a secret?" He looked at her, trying to measure honesty against vulnerability. "She was a big part of my life. But that chapter's closed." "Closed," Dakota repeated, "but not forgotten." For the first time that night, Sam didn't know how to respond. Instead, Dakota reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. "I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking if you're ready for something new." That was the moment, subtle, electric, irreversible, when something shifted, not the kind of passion that burns bright and dies fast, but the kind that seeps quietly into your bloodstream, rewiring your heart without permission. Weeks turned into months. London, Los Angeles, and New York blurred into a carousel of lights, premieres, and whispers. Sam and Dakota became an unspoken secret, always careful, always aware of the eyes watching. When photos of them leaving a hotel surfaced online, tabloids erupted. Heughan moves on from Balfe, Johnson's new flame, screamed one headline. Caitriona left behind, whispered another. Caitriona called him that evening. Her voice was calm, but there was something hollow beneath it. So, it's true then? She asked. Cat, ideographic period, I saw the photos, Sam. I just didn't expect it so soon. He closed his eyes. It's not what you think. Ideographic period, maybe not, she said softly. But it's what the world will think. Be careful, Sam. They love to watch us fall. There was a pause, a long, aching silence that said more than words could. Are you happy? She finally asked. I'm trying to be. Ideographic period, then. That's something. The line went dead, and for the first time since their show had ended, Sam realized that some goodbyes don't happen once, they happen over and over, until there's nothing left to say. Dakota didn't ask about the call. She never did. Instead, she showed up at his door with takeaway Thai food and a look that said I know, but I'm here anyway. You don't have to fix me, he said one night as they lay on the couch, watching old movies. I'm not trying to, she whispered. I'm just here to remind you that you're allowed to be happy again. Sam looked at her, really looked, and something inside him softened. She wasn't Caitriona. She wasn't the familiar comfort of shared scripts and years of friendship. She was something else entirely, unpredictable, alive, and real. When she laughed, the room felt warmer. When she cried, he realized how fragile strength could look in someone else's eyes. With her, he wasn't Jamie Fraser, or the man haunted by what-ifs. He was just Sam, imperfect, human, healing. And for the first time in years, that felt enough. The following spring, Sam found himself standing on a red carpet in Los Angeles. The flash of cameras was relentless, every question sharper than the one before. Sam, over here, how serious are you and Dakota? Ideographic period, any message for Caitriona Balfe? Do you regret choosing someone new so soon? He smiled, the kind of practiced smile that barely reached his eyes, and kept walking. Dakota's hand was firm around his. She hated the chaos of publicity, but she stayed, always by his side, always patient. Inside, when the lights dimmed and the noise faded, he finally exhaled. I can't keep doing this, he muttered. Dakota leaned closer. Doing what? Ideographic period, living like I'm constantly defending my happiness. She brushed a strand of hair from his face. Then stop defending it. Just live it. He wanted to believe her. But fame was a strange ghost. It haunted even when you stopped believing in it. That night, his phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Dakota. It wasn't a journalist. It was her. Caitriona, I saw the photos from tonight. You look happy. I'm glad. He stared at the message for a long time. His chest ached with a mix of relief and grief. Happiness had a strange price. Sometimes, it meant letting go of the only person who truly understood who you used to be. He typed slowly. Ideographic period, thank you, Cat. I wish you happiness too. Her reply came minutes later. You already gave me that once. Keep yours this time. Sam put the phone down and turned to see Dakota watching him quietly from the balcony, the city lights flickering behind her. He walked to her and wrapped his arms around her. She didn't ask what the message was. She didn't need to. She just whispered, "You can love your past and still choose your future, Sam." He kissed her forehead. That's what I'm trying to do. Months later, the storm came again, this time fiercer than before. A gossip site leaked old photos of Sam and Caitriona, intimate, laughing, their faces too close. The internet exploded. Did Sam betray Dakota? Ideographic period, old flames reignite. Dakota saw it before he did. By the time he reached home, she was already packing a small bag. Dakota, wait, he said, stepping in front of her. Her eyes were red, but not angry, just tired. I told myself I could handle your history. But I didn't know it would keep following us everywhere. It's not what it looks like, he pleaded. Those photos are years old. Ideographic period, I know that, she interrupted. But that doesn't make it easier. Every time I walk beside you, I feel like I'm walking through the ruins of someone else's story. He took her hand. You're not the second act of anything. You're the reason I stopped living in the first. She looked at him, truly looked, and the tears in her eyes reflected both love and pain. I love you, Sam. But maybe you still need to finish saying goodbye to her before you can really love me. He stood frozen as she closed the door behind her. The silence that followed was heavier than the first one he had ever known. Days turned to weeks. The press feasted on the breakup. Caitriona reached out again, gently, almost hesitantly. Caitriona, I heard about you and Dakota. I'm sorry. You deserve peace. He wrote back. I think I'm finally finding it, just in the wrong order. 6 months later, Sam found himself back in Scotland. He'd retreated there to breathe again, no premieres, no flashbulbs, no staged smiles. Just the sound of wind brushing through the hills that had raised him. One morning, as he walked along the misty trail near Loch Lomond, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned, and there she was. Dakota, wrapped in a coat, eyes unsure but hopeful. I didn't think you'd want to see me, he said softly. I didn't either, she replied, smiling faintly. But I missed you too much not to try. They stood there for a long moment, saying nothing, just listening to the water lapping against the rocks. I let the past win, he admitted. I let it haunt us. Ideographic period, no, she said, stepping closer. You let it teach you. That's what makes you who you are. He looked at her, really looked, and saw not the woman who had come after, but the woman who had stayed anyway. He reached out, brushing his fingers against hers. There's no more Caitriona, he whispered. Not because I stopped caring, but because I finally know what it means to move on. Dakota smiled through her tears. Then maybe now, we can start living, not as a headline, but as ourselves. The mist lifted slowly, revealing the soft glow of morning sunlight spilling over the water. Sam pulled her close, and for the first time in years, his heart felt quiet, not empty, but full. Because healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant forgiving himself, his past, his choices. And as he kissed her, the wind carried the last whisper of a name he no longer needed to hold on to. Caitriona was a memory. Dakota was his now.